Okay, number 3 on this test review says let f of x equals 14x to the third plus 28x squared minus 46x, and g of x equals 12x plus 7, which is the solution set to the equation 1/12 of f of x equals g of x. So they're giving you the equation 1/12 of f of x. So here's f of x, 1/12 of 14x to the third plus 28x squared minus 46x. And we want that to be equal to g of x, so equals g of x. Now, there's a couple of strategies you could use, but remember that last week that we were learning new material, one of the strategies we learned is that anytime you want to find a solution to an equation, you can put this side in a y equals key and this side in the y equals key and find their intersection points, right? So I'm going to put in 1/12, so alpha y equals, to get a fraction, 1/12, and then parentheses 14x to the third plus 28x squared minus 46x. And then on the other side, I'm going to put 2x plus 7. And usually a standard window is the best to start with. And if you look, the possible choices are almost all within a standard window range between -10 and 10. So let's go to zoom. And since we're dealing with non-trig functions, it's not a sine, cosine, or tangent, we're going to do zoom 6, zoom standard. And there's the first one, and here's the second one. So now we just need to figure out where they're intersecting, right? And I have these choices, so if I look, I can see that this one right here is crossing right at -3. So right at x equals -3, and what we're looking for is what the x values are. Remember what the x values are when they cross. So the x value here is going to be -3. So already I know it can't be C and it can't be D. Okay, and then I'm looking here, and between these two, it's not crossing at 0. Absolutely not crossing at 0. So it's crossing at -1 though. And then if I look over here, probably it's going to cross over 2. So at x equals -3, x equals -1, and x equals 2, I can just tell from looking at the answer choices which one's right. Now, if you wanted to be 100% sure, you could do second trace to do the calc. Go down to intersect, right? And then remember, it's going to ask you questions. First curve. So am I on Y1? Yes, I'm on Y1, so I'll hit enter. Second curve. Am I on Y2? Yes, so I'll hit enter. And then guess. So let's go down and put your cursor on the first one right here, guess. So that's my guess for this first one, hit enter. And then sure enough, x equals -3. I could do that again to find the next one. So am I on my first curve? Y1, yes. Am I on my second curve? Y2, yes. So am I now on my guess? Yeah, that's where I want to see it now. So I hit enter, and then -1. Yeah, x equals -1. So the last one, second calc, intersect, right? So again, am I on my first curve? So I hit enter to say yes. Am I on my second curve? Hit enter to say yes. And this time the intersection is up here, so I'm gonna move my cursor up there and hit enter. And sure enough, x equals 2. And the last thing that you could do if you wanted to is a different method would be, because you have multiple choice, you could substitute these values into this equation and see which one worked. I could plug -3 in for x, and plug it in, and we're going to ask ourselves, is this equal? And if it's correct, these two sides will be equal, right, when I plug those into the calculator. I'm not going to work that out, but I'm just showing you as a method. If I plug -3 into this side and I plug -3 into this side and it's a solution, these two sides are going to be equal. Okay, if I were to plug 11 into these two sides, it would not, if I were to plug 11 into these two sides, it would not be equal. So that would be a way to rule this out. And a really easy one to plug in, I will do this one, is 0. If I plug 0 in, 0, excuse the announcements.
Teachers, please report to the testing office to pick up your testing materials. Teachers, please report to the testing office to pick up your testing materials.
Sorry about that interruption. Okay, so if I plug in 0 to both sides, the question is, are these equal? Okay, so this is 0, this is 0, this is 0, because you're multiplying by 0, which means this becomes 0 on this side. And this is 0, but it's added to 7. So is 0 equal to 7? No. So this is actually a way to rule out, we could have ruled out A easily by plugging 0 in and realizing the two weren't going to be equal. So that's just a third example of how to do the problem. So there's lots of options for being able to solve this problem.